S08E14. That's all we need.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Tigers Down Under. I'm your host, Alex, and with me I have Dan. How are you, Dan?
Pretty good. It's like chalk and cheese. Last time I was on was pretty disappointed, but after a pretty few poor results, but turned it around over the last couple of games.
It's amazing, right? I mean, we were sitting here last week and saying, you know, a win would be good, but really to start moving up the table, we needed 2 wins to sort of get a bit of a run together. And sure enough, they delivered. And it's one of those weird ones because I guess he changed up the lineup. We'll start with the Blackpool game, obviously, where he did sort of change up that lineup with 4 changes. But it's not as if, you know, an injured player came back and we suddenly were, you know, like, oh, well, we've been missing him, and then it sort of clicked. It was just players either, I don't know, just sort of like Seri, I think, has been unreal the last couple of games. I thought Longman up front actually surprisingly really worked in place of Oscar. Greaves at left back was, you know, really mobile and really good at getting up the field and sort of stretching them and creating opportunities. It was as if it all just sort of clicked together, and it was in a way that we probably didn't really see coming.
Yeah, look, I know when the lineup was announced, it was a bit. I was trying to do the mental arithmetic to figure out how, like, what the formation was and how they all sort of fit in, because I was like, going, well, there's the 3 centre backs, and then does that mean it's like Christie and Longman?
Yeah, I was going to say
wing backs, and then like the 3
who's the striker?
In the minute, Pelkas up. And I was like, well, no, that doesn't make. It just did my head in for a little while, but look, I think we were talking about last week about, like, we just needed some players to graft and grind and to put 100% in effort in for 90 minutes. And finally, we got one of those performances, albeit with the lineup that surprised many, and, you know, a couple of players out of their natural position. But I think, it's hard to, I mean, you win, you break the losing streak, you pick up 3 points. It's hard to complain too much, really.
And dare I say it, you know, sort of, hello, Andy, if you're watching, because I think last week we were saying that potentially you drop Tufan, or not drop, but you rest him, or you take him out of the side, you throw him on for the last 30 minutes instead. You get a sort of more energetic display from him in that last 30 minutes, and you get a more mobile midfield for the majority of the game. And sure enough, I mean, we saw him score the goal against Rotherham after coming on, and that more mobile midfield with sort of Slater, Doherty, Woods and Seri sort of is almost like a diamond midfield. I just worked a treat.
Yeah, it seemed to. I mean, they all seem to work. I think Seri has pleasantly surprised me since he's come back in the last few games. Early on, he seemed there has to have been something going on, because he just wasn't right. It just, you know, we're going, this is the guy who was with Fulham last in a team that got promoted and was like you know, key player for their setup. How can he come here and look so, you know, he really did look really poor early in the season, but the last couple of games, sensational. The player that I hoped was coming to the club, really, and he's been, you know, energetic and, you know, working hard defensively and getting forward up the pitch as well to help out in attack. So I think whatever happened, there was the weird wrist injury he had for a little while, whether that was just, you know, impacting him, holding him back a little bit. But yeah, again, whatever's happened, whatever's turned around for him, long may it continue.
I think he was the one I was most worried about downing tools, so to speak, where he might, if the results continue to fall away, he might sort of say, well, what am I doing here? I didn't want to come in the first place. I wanted to go to Italy. I got talked around, but this is a disaster, and just potentially leave in January. But as you say, whatever's happened since he's come back in, he's been fantastic and was my man. We'll do the votes later, but he was definitely my man of the match against Blackpool. And I think having those more mobile midfielders alongside him, rather than Tufan, who I don't think has that mobility to really cover Seri when needed, has just freed him up so much to be, I mean, you don't necessarily think of him as a playmaker, but his just ability to either win the ball back or retain the ball and then play those cute little passes sideways or forwards or backwards to just kind of keep possession, keep momentum going. which we saw was sort of the basis of that second goal for Doherty. Was, I mean, I think it was Woods and Seri holding the ball and pushing it back forward right at the end of the first half and giving us that chance.
Yeah, I think all of the midfield over the last couple of games has been sensational. It's hard to put a fault on any of them. Even Tufan, when he's come on as a replacement, has been sensational. The balance seems to be there. Whereas I guess like you sort of look at it retrospectively, you look back and you go, it kind of felt like now when I look back and it was exciting to go, oh, look at all these attacking outlets we have. But I feel like, you can easily look back and say we just didn't have the balance. We were trying to put, too many like flair players or however you want to describe it into that and just trying to fit them into a system instead of figuring out what is the best or the most effective system for the players that we have and working that way. And the tweaks that Dawson's made, now seem to be, working out. Goal from Doherty.
I was going to ask. Goal of the season.
That's going to take some beating, I reckon.
Yeah.
It's got to be a contender, surely. I know it's early in the season, but what a hit!
It just reminds me of, I think it was the League One season where he would take a lot. I keep forgetting when we actually signed him. I think it was for the League One season, wasn't it? Like he didn't play any of that relegation, because I just remember early in his career with us, just all of those sorts of the shots that he would take where we're like, oh, he's such a good player. He's getting those chances, getting those shots, just wasn't scoring them. And then this was just reminiscent, like those long range shots that he was taking. So for him to actually find the back of the net with it was awesome.
Yeah, I think, and like on top of that, just the general work rate. I mean, I commented on last week, but his hustle, his bustle in midfield, he's strong on the ball. He drives forward really well, gets in the channel and helps out there. And I think he's been like an actual revelation since he came back into the squad. Even those first few appearances off the bench, like was changing the momentum, changing the momentum around in the game by just trying with whatever he could to grab that game by the scruff of the neck. And I think he's been sensational. I mean, Slater's, and I mean, you just go through, you start listening. Slater's just been doing what Slater does. I mean, like
50 grand, Regan Slater,
right? Yeah, that's like 50K, and like just.
Did you see the video from Fleming and Graves? They were doing like a behind the scenes video after, I want to say it was after the Rotherham game. It might have been after the Blackpool game, where they were like, oh, Slater's behind us, and then Graves is like, 50 grand. It's like clearly that's his nickname around the club, which is great.
Right. I hadn't seen that, but that's funny.
Yeah. And then obviously Longman as well is probably one to touch on as well with his, maybe a touch fortunate goal in this one, but then, much cleaner goal in the Rotherham game. But to get 2-2 for him after the struggles that he's had to start the season from the fans, as well as on the pitch, is awesome to see.
Yeah, I think he certainly has not, in the first section of the season, never really set the world on fire. And it was, it was weird. We sort of were like, oh, well, I guess, he played for that contract and he got it. He got the move, the permanent move, and now, he's complacent. But again, I guess whatever they've said to him, whatever words they've had to him, on the training pitch or in the locker room or whatever, they've managed to get him, like, he's still not maybe as dynamic as we have seen him, but he's now, 2-2 for a forward. Like,
yeah, and he's keeping Oscar out of the side. I think
that's a crazy thing. That's the something I was going to mention. Like, this is a guy who wasn't really even in form, who Dawson was like, I'm going to put him in anyway, and put the league's equal or top scorer on the bench, for a guy who has had some horrendous misses in the first section of the season, been abused by the fans, like just been through the ringer. And he's I think it's really good to see that Longman actually has risen to that opportunity, risen to the challenge, taken it with both hands. 2-2. Yeah, what do you say?
That's awesome. And also, I guess the last thing to note before we do the votes, Slater and Doherty's goals were the first goals for City in front of City supporters, because I think their other goals have been over lockdown. So I think it was when Slater scored his goal to seal the points, and you could see him going over to the supporters and how much it meant to him. And we kind of talk about, like the quality players that we brought in the summer, the international players, the high pedigree, but there's still something about those sorts of, the players that wear their heart on the sleeve, sort of the soul of the club, your Doherty's, your Slaters, Longman even, really, who just put a shift in. And like, when we talk about the fact that we needed to get back to basics, I think somewhat that was referring to as well, just getting those grafters back into the side who are going to work hard for the side and sweat for the shirt, I should say.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess, just one that we haven't really mentioned as well was Pelkas, who I actually thought,
yes,
right, look, I mean, yeah, some not great finishing, with a couple of really good opportunities, but on the ball, is really starting to hit some form, taking players on, a couple of nutmegs, like getting around, getting into the right areas. And he's trying. I can see every time when he goes to finish, I'm seeing exactly what he's trying to do, and it's just not quite coming off. But
yeah,
he's got to be so close. He's got to be so close to getting some goals. And I think once he starts firing as well, like he's going to be tearing it up.
He's got so much ability. So I think it was the Slater goal basically started from him winning the ball back. So he's another one who'll put that hard yard in and do the dirty stuff. But then he had that chance as well where he megged the defender, got inside, and really he should have just been finishing near post, but goes for the outside of the foot for the far post. And you see as well in the Rotherham game, there's a couple of chances where Doherty probably should have squared it to him for relatively easy chances and was missed. But as you say, it just feels like there's a huge game coming from him pretty soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Did you want to give your votes first and I'll give mine?
Sure. So for that absolute worldie, I've gone 3 points to Doherty. And then I was real torn between the others because basically for what we've just talked about, all of the midfield working so hard and like just putting an absolute shift in and actually being like really efficient and dynamic with possession as well. And I found it real hard to pick my 2 points. But I ended up going with Woods, actually. I thought
nice one.
just even in the highlights, I thought there was some really nice forward play, a few passes that split defenders, split the midfield, got into the channel, into the spaces, and allowed us then to be breaking and working forward really well. So on top of all his defensive duties, he has a weird walking stance, though, that I notice. Like he's just got a weird posture or something, and it always makes me laugh when I watch him. Like after he's had a lung busting run and he's walking back, it's sort of like just real fun. It's like a waddle with his chest out, like real.
I haven't noticed it. I'll have to keep an eye out.
Yeah, I just and then I gave 1 point to Pelkas just for sort of what we talked, just that dynamism in the final third. He's been real good, and I think he's so close to a goal.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, it's funny. It feels like we go from one extreme to another. I feel like there's some weeks we're giving the vote so we go, geez, I'm scraping the barrel to even find one player. And then we have weeks like this where I think I've gone 2 of my 3 are different players to yours. So you've got so many options.
I reckon we just, when we have those shit games, we just bank up those points and we save them for the good games.
That's a good shout, actually. Should do that. Look, I went Seri for the 3 votes. I just thought he was sort of at the heart of everything. All of our attacks, all of our drives started with him in midfield, winning the ball back and spraying those passes around. I thought, as we were saying at the start, his performances over the last month have really gone up a notch. I gave 2 votes to Doherty. Hard to go past him for that goal of a season contender. And as you say, his work rate around the ground as well, also fantastic. 1 vote, I went Longman. Probably more deserving in the second game we'll talk about. But at the same time, I thought talking about the fact that Oscar was... I mean, look, it's interesting. You'd say he was rested for this game, but then he didn't come back in for Rotherham. So is it rested? Is it just a formation change or whatever you want to call it? But I thought we created a lot of chances, a lot of sort of goal-mouth chances. And the instinct would be to say, well, if only Oscar was playing, he'd finish those off. But I almost wonder if we're creating those because of Longman's work rate and movement and harassing of the opposition. and his work rate, the shift that he put in was awesome. So he got my one vote. All right, so moving quickly on to the Rotherham game, 4-2 result. So what's that? Seven goals scored, 3 goals conceded. Dawson is basically delivering what Ajun wanted. He's giving us high scoring, attractive, free flowing football, and I think it's summed up by, was it the third goal or was it the second goal? I think it was the third goal, because Christie's was the second. The third goal where Greaves drives the ball across the box for Longman to finish it off after an awesome team passing move. It's just sort of, if you could bottle that goal, that's exactly the sort of football that clearly Ajun wants and is really pleasing to watch.
Yeah, I think overall another sensational performance. The one thing that is concerning me is that back post defending. We still haven't got that nailed down yet. This game earlier in this, it's been
the
doesn't seem
Blackpool
to
goal
matter.
as well. Yeah,
It doesn't even really seem to matter who's there, because there's been, if it's, I think there was a couple where we have called out Coyle earlier in the season for his defending on the back post.
It's bizarre though, because it's it's always on the right hand side. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter who's playing. It's
And
always
this
on the
time, I
right
think
side.
it was Woods this time.
Yeah.
Who didn't close or didn't track and close down Dougal. So yeah, I don't know. That's one thing that I noticed that I was a bit frustrated with. That I feel like that's something it wasn't from that angle and that position, he shouldn't have enough time and space to be able to hit that and score near post. That should be closed down. So that's disappointing. But apart from that,
well, and in both games, conceding almost straight after we scored. It's weird.
Apart from that little defensive nitpickery, I think again, just another really strong performance where it was really hard to fault too many people. Again, a really solid team performance. Some other players again who I thought stood out really well compared to, again, players that we have criticised for maybe not being in great form earlier in the season. I think we maybe even called for him to have a rest at one point. Minor positional shift, goal and an assist.
Yeah.
Just crazy how
it's funny.
the tweaks that are tweaks that Dawson's making that seem to be working. So.
Oh yeah, and for Greaves to get his first goal finally after what feels like forever, I think it's 101
After Magena stole his other one.
Yeah, that's right. And I think he was I thought he'd got the goal that Longman got against Blackpool, so that was also another pretty close one. And even this one takes a deflection, and you're watching the replays going, oh, hopefully that's on target. It's not going to be an own goal after everything gets robbed off him. But yeah, the assist for Longman as well, and just another terrific display. Christie down the right getting his goal as well was awesome. It's hard. Even Figueiredo in defense looking pretty solid. I think I'm trying to think. It's more Jones, I think, for the second Rotherham goal, who's not really marking. But it's hard to remember now. It was sort of that ball flashed across from Eves. But hey, if you're going to score 4 goals, you can't be too hypercritical on the defending, I suppose. And really good to see Fleming back as well, off the bench.
Yeah, it was really nice for him to come on, and I think it's a testament to how well Greaves is playing that when Fleming came on, he didn't go into left back. He came in as a left winger or a left-sided midfielder instead. So, good to see him back. Good to see some minutes in the legs for the first team as well. And I guess starts to make an interesting, almost a dilemma in that left back position, because I know Elder's been
Elder's a
out for the
little bit,
last.
yeah. Well, I think he's supposedly back for Blackburn, but
but the last few games he's sort of been out, and I guess Greaves has been the best available. You're fully fit and available, and now you've got, if Elder's back, Fleming's got to be, is close. Is going to be getting, you to hope, some more minutes. Closing on full fitness, and in a couple of weeks you might have 3 players vying for the left back spot.
Yeah.
So, I guess they're the the dilemmas that you probably want as a manager, having too many options as opposed to not enough. But it's just wild.
Just wild. And so we're now 2 wins on the bounce. We're up to 16th. Amazingly, obviously Watford played on the Sunday night and they won, so they're now 3 points ahead of us. But amazingly, after that win against Rotherham, we were level on points with Watford. And you don't want to be going from one extreme to another too much. Of one week we're sitting here going, oh, we're in a relegation battle, and next week saying, oh, we're in a promotion battle. But it is sort of, it is, I guess, a reality check to not get too negative or too positive when you look at a table and you think, well, hang on, we were sitting there level on points with Watford, who are absolutely still going for top 6 and would not be writing off their season yet, and thinking to ourselves, well, we shouldn't really be writing anything off too early either. We were sitting here last week saying we needed those 2 wins, and 2 wins does make a huge difference. But it just really sets us up so well now for the last, I think it's 5 games before the World Cup break, where you sort of target, I guess, if you could get 3 wins out of the 5, it really sets you up for the second, I guess, half you'd call it, of the season.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting season this year, because I think we're already at a point where there's no clear leader, there's no undefeated teams, there's no, like, where over the last couple of seasons it's felt like, you've had your sort of, maybe like your Fulhams or whatever, like really like pushing the limits of being undefeated at this point in the season. I know they were killing it early on last year. And even what we've had, like Sheffield United has been strong over the last couple of seasons, really like pushing up there, and just like
I mean, because Chef U and Norwich are both on, I think it's 5-game winless runs. I mean, Burnley probably the most likely to maybe start to pull away, but I mean, as you say, it's just pretty even after that.
Yeah, so I think, like, without getting too caught up in the doom or the optimism, I don't know, like, we're almost like smack in the middle of like top of first and last. It's weird. I think we're a couple of points closer to the bottom than we are the top. It's like 8 to the bottom and 10 to the top, or something wild. It just doesn't feel like, and you go, like, we've had such poor form up until the last couple of games. How can it be all still that close? But it's just, I think it's
Everyone's
just
just
going to be one of
beating
those.
everyone. Yeah.
It's just going to be one of those seasons where I think, like, it's going to be really hard to tell how this is going to play out. But if we can keep playing the way we are, and as you say, like, heading into the World Cup break, 5 games to go, you pick up 9 or 10 points or something like that, and you've set yourself up in a really good position then to kick on after the World Cup, hopefully.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I'll run through my 3 votes, then we can talk manager, because I guess that's the big question on everyone's lips after a bit of news that broke overnight. You can't go past Greaves for the 3 votes. I thought a goal and an assist, really outstanding performance for him, was brilliant to see. Again, I've gone Seri for 2 votes. I thought just another fantastic display from him in the midfield. I'm pretty boring because I'm going 2 of the 3 as the same as the Blackpool game, because I've gone Longman for the 1 vote as well. If anything, probably more deserving in this game. As I said before, I thought his goal in this was great to see.
Well, look, I've copied you for the 3. I've given Greaves the 3 points for pretty much the same: the goal, the assist, and the almost penalty. Didn't talk about. But I mean, I can sort of see both sides. That really could, I can see, like, the free kick, sort of the first contact was outside the box, but then, like, it was a extended, like, contact and, like, wrestle and grab, and it sort of felt like
you should. Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I was pretty outraged at that. It should be a penalty.
I tend to think that it should be a penalty, but I mean, Pelkas made it so that it almost didn't matter. His the shot off that was sensational, only just missing the top corner of the far post. But anyway, then I gave 2 points to Longman. The same. I felt bad because I didn't find any room for him in the Blackpool game for breaking his duck, but Yeah, this I thought this goal was much more deserving. A much, I mean, every goal counts, but this was sort of like a nicer goal, I suppose. You know,
And it's such a and like I said at the start, it is the sort of goal where you could almost imagine Dawson clipping out that goal and showing it at the start of a training session and saying, "This is why we're doing the drills, why we're doing the passing, because this is what can come of it when everyone plays their bit."
Yeah. So I think, and yeah, just deserved for Longman. I think
Mm.
as we touched on earlier, that had a bit of a rough go over the last month or so, but to really stepped up, and to get two and two is really good. Hopefully, hopefully he goes 3 and 3. And I've gone 1 point to Christie for
Yeah, nice.
getting his first goal. Nice little move. And again, I think he works really hard down that right hand side and is involved in lots of good stuff. Plays really smart. And obviously, I think based on one of his post match interview a few weeks ago, is a really really intelligent player. So I think I've given 1 point to Christie for his performance.
And I guess it's really interesting as well to think about the fact that we've had 7 goals scored and none of them scored by Estepinian. That we've got the league's top goal scorer, and we've said about 3-4 times here, players scoring their first goal of the season. Longman against Blackpool, Doherty against Blackpool. I think maybe Slater as well. I don't know if all 3 of those were first goals, and then
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, they would have been, and then Greaves, Christie in this game as well. So. Lots of players suddenly getting on the score sheet gives us a lot of dynamic options, which is great to see. Okay, so news overnight coming from Alan Nixon, who's reasonably accurate with this sort of stuff, talking about Liam Rosenior being essentially the number 1 target for the club, with a view of having him signed up by the weekend. Nevin, and I mean, I guess as well, also to say, Tan Kessler also basically confirmed that he was one of the leading candidates as well. So it's not a completely baseless bit of news. I can't remember if it was on the podcast or just in the chat or somewhere, or maybe Twitter in the preseason, or even when McCann left, that I was basically saying I really wanted to get Rosenior in at some point because I thought he was going to be a really good option for us in terms of obviously the link to the club. His role at Derby under Rooney as well can't be underestimated, which he then showed, I thought, with his caretaker role there. But what's your sense, or what's your take on him potentially coming back to the club?
Look, I'm. It's sort of what I go like. Everyone go. You look at Dawson as a caretaker, and it's people go, oh, we need to get someone else in. Rah rah rah. He can't. And he's got a few results. And suddenly people are going, well, it's not fair to bring Rosenior in and then dump Dawson. But I think, he's been doing, as you mentioned, great stuff, great work behind the scenes at Derby when Rooney was there, and had them still going, playing good, picking up results as a caretaker. I don't really have any problem with it. I think there's a lot of positives to it. As you mentioned, that connection with the club, being able to have someone who really understands, what it means to play for Hull City, um, you know, and really just drill down into the culture and the community there. I think that's a real positive. And I think the thing that does me the most is everyone on the internet and just everywhere, Twitter, Facebook, everywhere, just being like, oh no, we need an experienced manager. Got to have an experienced manager who knows the league, whatever the hell that really means. Because you look around the league at all the managers who've just been sacked.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're all
Wilder,
experienced
Bruce,
managers who
yeah.
know the league, and they've still done nothing. So like bringing someone like that in doesn't guarantee success. It doesn't guarantee that they're going to get you playing football that's successful in the championship. Again, like phrases that don't make any sense. They're just weird. I don't know, like anachronism, just like weird little sentiments that people hold that they just are able just to throw out there without actually thinking about the practicalities of the whole scenario.
And I'd actually say, I mean, even to counter the idea that he doesn't have experience, I mean, he was an assistant at a club with a 14-point deduction last season and almost kept them up. Just because he wasn't the manager, he was still an assistant manager. He was still experienced. He was still working with the manager every day on the training ground. Like he was just as involved in that sense. So I kind of push back on the idea that he's inexperienced or doesn't know the league at all. But then, as you say, that's not even the be all and end all. And I would envisage if it was to happen that Dawson would stay as his assistant coach or senior assistant. I sort of joked, I think it was in the chat, about whether you could almost have dual managers.
Oh, yeah.
Like, is there actually a rule against having just two managers? Like, I don't know. Like, you're almost saying, well, Dawson's there as that point of continuity. Rosenior's there as maybe having a little bit more sort of knowledge, I guess you'd say, or tactical nous, or whatever you'd want to call it. Nous, I should say. But yeah, like they each have something to offer in that role. And so whether you just have them sort of complementing each other makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I keep getting caught up in all the stupid comments I've read about like people being like, oh, we were going for, you know, Pedro Martins and now we're going for Liam Rosenior. And I'm like, there's no guarantee that like Martins would have come in and smashed it and, you know, guaranteed his promotion or anything. Like, it just doesn't. Every single appointment is a gamble, right?
Yeah.
And always has been and always will be, because there's no. Everyone should know that there's no guarantees. There are no guarantees in football.
That's right. That's right. Well, let's move on. We'll do our Who Am I, and then we'll preview both games. If you're ready for the Who Am I.
Sure. I'll see if I can go back to my first guess glory.
This is an interesting one, because I think when you know the answer, the first clue I think is something that you could get the player off, but I'll see how you go with it. So I made 144 appearances for City and I scored 1 goal.
Oh. 144. It's a fair bit. It's not Greaves, is it?
No, it's not. It's not a bad guess, actually.
What's he up to? Because he's about 100 years.
Yeah, he's 101, I think. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. So actually, I hadn't thought of that connection, but yeah, fair guess, actually.
Well, no glory.
I joined City in 2010 and I left City in 2015.
Right, 2015.
I can tell you who he signed from as well, if that helps, but I actually didn't even realize we signed him from this club, so I don't think it would help.
Probably the signing from probably wouldn't help, I don't think.
I can tell you.
I think that's sort of just. I think that's just before my my following.
Well, I can tell you who he went to as well, because I'd actually forgotten where he went. So when he left City, he went to Brighton. Yeah.
Jeez, I'm trying to. I'm trying to think of all the older. I think you might have done me on this one.
Well, I'll give you one more clue. Then what I might do is I might also describe the goal he scored, because that might also click. But I'll give you this clue first. So I played predominantly right back, although did also play on the left when required, and wore the number 2. My only goal scored for City was when Nikita Jelavic had his penalty saved and I headed in the rebound. Don't know if that's going to help.
It probably should.
I reckon there's going to be people listening or watching this screaming at the screen.
I bet.
But it's one of those ones where when you hear the answer, it's going to get you. Instead of giving you the last clue, I've got another one for you as well, which I'm hoping gets it for you. I was the subject of a popular terrace chant involving the fact that my grandmother is from Hull.
I saw something about this just somewhere on Twitter or in the chat or something, and I can't remember who it is. Oh, it's Rosinia, you son of a bitch.
I was like, he's either going to get it straight away, or it's going to be one of those like it's like that just outside the memory bank. Yeah. Because we had the other one a few weeks ago. I think it was Elmo, and you were like, it wouldn't be Andy Dawson because that'd be too obvious. Because we were just talking about him, and I was like, I'm going to do the double bluff and go the really obvious one. Nah, fair. You did get it before I gave the initials, so I'll still count that as a successful one.
Well, yep, I feel like an idiot.
No, all good. Well, we'll move swiftly on. We've got the 2 games coming up. We may as well we'll preview them together, just in the interest of time. Against Blackburn this weekend, and then Middlesbrough midweek next week. Middlesbrough have obviously just appointed Michael Carrick as manager, while Blackburn have John Dale Thomason, who took over in the summer from Mowbray, who went to Sunderland in the end. But the much tougher tests than Rotherham and Blackpool, I would say. So these are basically 2 games, I think, where we can really test whether we found a winning combination with the side, or whether we just sort of, I guess, face 2 sides on poor days. It'll give us a good yardstick, I think, of where we are in the top 6 race, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I mean, we've built a little bit of form, but it doesn't look like it's quite as good as Blackburn's current run. So I think
it's that 5 wins in the last 6 or something.
Yeah,
sorry. That was 5 in the last 6 against us, but 3 wins in a row in the league. Yeah.
And 4 in their last 5. So
yeah,
with no draws this season. No, I just saw Brereton Diaz's name, and I was like, oh, not that guy again.
Yeah, I think he's level on goals with Oscar at the top, along with Sargent at Norwich as well. And of course, if Bradley Dack is playing, it's infamous for his shambles comment when our Boxing Day fixture got postponed. So it's a fun fixture because of course the last time we played them was Ajun's first game.
Yeah, look, I think it'd be interesting. I guess, it's hard to say. Like a week ago, I would have been like, nah, no chance. And now, like, I look at both of these games and I go, is it possible to win both? Sure. Is it likely that we win both? I still don't know about that. But I also don't feel like we're going to get beat in both. So I'm sort of in the middle. I kind of am feeling like a 4 points from both games is like where we're sort of at.
That's what I was going to say. I feel like it's a win and a draw with them.
I don't know which one we're going to win, which one we're going to.
I think Borough's the more likely, but then as you're saying, Blackburn just don't do draws this season, so maybe we don't draw that one.
So I don't know. But
a few interesting players in both games coming up against you. You've got Akpom for Middlesbrough as well, and Riley McRae, who's doing all right.
Look, I think I look at that. I just feel like if we just do more of the same, we'll either. I feel like we'll perform well and we'll either pick up points, or I can't see us just getting disgracing ourselves or getting smashed to pieces at the moment, even if it means. Like I feel like we've been able to set a bit of a platform in midfield and take control, and that's allowed us to go forward and play really attacking. But I think there's been sections in these last few games where we have really had to sit deep and dig deep, and we've done that pretty well for the most part, barring obviously a couple of little exceptions. So I think I feel it's weird. I just want to. It's tempered confidence. I don't want to go overconfident, but I think I'm actually really looking forward to these games now.
Really
exciting proposition.
It's actually, I think that's it. I think it's exciting playing them now that we're in a bit of form and you've got that chance to, I mean, especially the Blackburn game with them sitting near the top of the table. I think with Borough still below us, I think, and then they're still really struggling. Yeah, they're 20th in the table. Struggling for results. I think they drew their last game 0-0 with, I can't remember who it was. I can't remember if it was Blackpool or someone. not looking very good. It's, Carrot coming in, maybe gets them going on the weekend, so maybe that becomes a more interesting prospect. But it's a pretty good side, a pretty good time to play them. It's a strange one because, like, at the start of the season, you're looking at Middlesbrough as one of the big promotion potentials with Wilder at the helm, and I'm shocked at how much it's unraveled for them this season. I just didn't see it coming. I mean, West Brom, you wouldn't have necessarily seen them doing this badly, but you're not surprised necessarily that it didn't work out for them and Bruce. But with Borough, I just didn't see that coming at all.
Yeah, it's been. I guess that's we were talking about earlier. The season's just full of twists, turns, surprises. And it's really hard to know how, how the success of any team, how long it's going to last. There's not a team that looks like they're just going to smash it. And there's heaps of good rosters. It's not like, as you sort of mentioned, like about Middlesbrough, or like that they have a poor roster. They've got plenty of quality players, and it's just not quite happening for them. So, potentially there's our chance to pick up a long-awaited clean sheet.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Because I think that's sort of the one thing is missing. Get that for the defense, and then all of a sudden there'll be a lot of just confidence all around. Score goals, can keep them out. We won't have to fear anybody.
Was that my fault against? I think it was my fault against Rotherham. I said, as we're coming closer to halftime, I said, I'm finally. This is a game I feel like we're going to keep a clean sheet in, and we conceded like 2 minutes later.
As soon as you did, I was like, "You've jinxed us," and then then they scored.
Yeah. So no, it would be good to get a clean sheet in either one or both of these games. I think, as you said, 4 points seems like a reasonable sort of hope in this game, in these games, and would really set us up. I guess the big question before we sign off is, would you make any changes to the side? Would you just, it ain't broke, so don't try and fix it and just keep going with the same lineup? Or would you sort of bring Oscar in or Fleming at the left back? Or how would you shape it up?
I think certainly for the Blackburn game, I think I'd just leave it as is. Potentially for the Borough game with a bit of a shorter turnaround, maybe a couple of changes, because I know there's going to come a point where having basically all of our midfielders on the park at all times, running the four of our main midfield men, which I think basically we've got Tufan as our other main senior midfielder on the bench.
Yeah, Salah did take part in the open training session, so he's getting closer.
I think they still said after the World Cup break for him, though. I think there's a few of those guys who are close.
But I guess Cynic as well could potentially play that.
I wonder if that means that it becomes, if there is changes or something happens, then maybe it becomes a bit of a formation switch and we go back to like a 4-3-3 or something and then you can bring Cynic on to start. Maybe push Longman wide and bring Oscar in up top if something horrible happened or we wanted to rest some of those players. But I can't see any change for Blackburn. And then if you don't need to, I would say if there's no forced changes, then I wouldn't make them for the Middlesbrough game either. I think while they're in form and they're playing and they're playing well, just keep them together.
That's it. Well, hopefully they do keep playing well. Hopefully we pick up the 6 points in these two games, and we'll be back this time next week to talk all about it. But until then, thank you for joining me, Dan.
No worries. It's good to be on after some wins.
It's always enjoyable after a couple of wins, no doubt. And thank you everyone for listening in. Until next time, come on, City.